This happened a few years ago. I had just graduated college and was looking for a fresh start. I decided to move in with my friend Tyler. The place was old, but I thought it had a certain charm. The first night felt cozy. The dim lighting and creaky floors seemed just right for two guys figuring out adulthood together. But by the next night, things started to feel off. I woke up to the sound of Tyler giggling in his sleep. It was strange, almost like a child. I brushed it off, thinking it was just a quirk. But then I began hearing him mumble and talk in his sleep. The sounds echoed off the walls. I lay in my bed, tense and listening. I didn't understand what he was saying. It was unsettling. The weirdness escalated. One morning, I noticed the door was open that I was sure I had shut. Then, a couple of days later, I found my keys on the living room table. I never put them there. I shrugged it off too. Maybe I was just forgetful. Then one night, I awoke to a sound in the bathroom. I blinked, and there was Tyler, standing in front of the mirror, perfectly still. I thought about calling out, but a strange fear held me back. Minutes passed. He didn't move a muscle. Finally, he turned away and walked back to bed without saying a word. I shivered under the covers. Each laugh and mumble chipped away at my comfort. Most nights, I couldn't sleep at all. Sometimes I would even hear Tyler's laughter again, echoing in the darkness. I began to avoid shared spaces. My room became my sanctuary. I just wanted to feel safe. I tried to talk to Tyler about it. "Are you having bad dreams?" I asked one evening. He looked at me with blank eyes. "I sleep fine. Everything's normal," he said. I wanted to believe him, but there was something off about him. One night, I heard him whispering my name softly. I froze in bed. I turned my head to look, but nobody was there. Just quiet. My heart raced. I wondered if I was losing my mind. The next moment, Tyler appeared at my door. I was still shaken. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice shaky. He just stared at me. His eyes were empty. "Are you okay?" I asked, but he didn't respond. I didn't know what to do. Was something wrong with Tyler, or was it the apartment? Every strange thing made my skin crawl, and it felt like the walls were closing in on me. My mind raced with questions. Did I ever really know him? Did he even see me? Inside, I was terrified. Living in that old apartment turned my sense of reality upside down. Something was there with us, and it felt hungry. It felt wrong. I couldn't shake the feeling. Eventually, I knew I had to get out. But leaving without answers felt even scarier. Would I really escape? Or was something already inside me? I needed a plan. I couldn't keep ignoring what was happening. That day, I decided to investigate the apartment more thoroughly. Maybe I could uncover some explanations. I started with the bathroom. It was small and cramped, but the mirror caught my attention. I approached it and looked closely. The surface was cracked in one corner, but nothing seemed out of place. I turned the faucet to check for leaks, anything that might indicate a reason for Tyler's odd behavior or my growing sense of dread. Nothing. Just water. Next, I moved to the living room. The walls were lined with strange, old portraits. Their eyes seemed to follow me. I shook off the feeling of unease and examined one of the paintings more closely. A frayed edge along the bottom revealed a small compartment. My heart raced as I pried it open. Inside was a folded piece of paper. I took it out, my hands trembling. As I unfolded it, I felt a chill. It was a list of names, some crossed out, others not. My name was there, along with Tyler's, but so were names I didn't recognize. I scanned for dates, but they were all illegible, smeared or faded. I almost dropped the paper when I heard a soft laugh coming from the hallway. My stomach lurched. It sounded exactly like Tyler's laughter. I rushed back towards my room, panic gripping me. I needed to find him and confront him about all of this. I found him sitting on the edge of his bed, staring blankly ahead, as if he were lost in thought. "Tyler!" I shouted. "What is going?" But then, something stopped me. His expression was disturbingly peaceful. It was as if he was in a trance. I stepped closer, trying to shake him from this stupor. "Hey! Are you okay?" I asked, my voice trembling. He didn't respond, just kept staring blankly. Then I saw it. A figure shifting behind him in the dark of the room, something I almost missed. My breath caught in my throat. It was just a shadow, but it had a shape. It felt wrong. It felt alive. "Tyler, get up!" I urged, stepping back, my instincts screaming at me to run. But just as I was about to flee, he turned toward me with a wide, unnatural smile. "It's our turn," he said, his voice low and eerie. Those words echoed in my mind like a death knell. My heart raced again. I glanced quickly at the door, considering escape, but my legs felt like lead. I was trapped. "What do you mean?" I whispered, but he only laughed again, a sound that felt twisted and wrong. Panic surged inside me. I was losing him. Whatever grip he had on reality was slipping away. As I tried to process this twisted scene, the shadow behind him began to separate from the wall. I felt a cold rush of air as it drifted closer, and everything shifted. I stumbled back, my thoughts racing. I had to get away. I had to escape this place and whatever it was that filled it. The moment seemed like a nightmare made flesh. Then everything went dark. I woke up gasping, my heart pounding in my chest. The darkness was thick around me, swallowing any idea of where I was. I blinked, trying to focus, and slowly reality returned. I was still in the apartment, curled up on the floor by my bed, but the silence felt heavier now. I sat up, my back pressed against the wall. Did I fall? Did I faint? Just moments ago, Tyler's face loomed before me with that chilling smile, and the shadow had been closing in. I had to figure out what was happening. I needed to find Tyler. I pulled myself to my feet and took a deep breath. The air felt cool, too cool, and I could almost hear it whispering secrets. I glanced around the dimly lit room. The shadows felt elongated and alive, moving slightly whenever I turned my head. A knot of fear twisted in my stomach. "Tyler?" I called softly, my voice catching a little. I waited, hoping he'd respond, but the only answer was the echo of my own voice bouncing off the walls. Nothing. I stepped cautiously out of my room, unsure what I'd find. The hallway was eerily quiet. I walked to the living room, half expecting to find Tyler still in that trance. Instead, the room was empty. The old portraits still hung there, silently staring, and my stomach twisted again. I couldn't shake the feeling that they were somehow involved. That's when I noticed something. The painting I had examined before, the one where I found the folded paper, looked different. The compartment was now wide open, the paper gone. I felt a mix of panic and dread. Where had it gone? I rushed back to the bathroom, thinking maybe I could find another clue. As I entered the small space, a terrible thought struck me. What if Tyler was no longer here? A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. What if he was the next name on the list I had found? Just then, I heard it again, a soft laugh, echoing from the living room. My heart dropped. It was unmistakably Tyler's laugh, but it sounded hollow, almost sinister. I crept back toward the sound, each step heavy, my heart racing. I pushed the door open wider, peering into the living room. The air was thick, and I felt a presence there, something beyond the shadows. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The portraits seemed to ripple as if alive. Tyler appeared in my vision, standing by the window, but there was something dark around him, like a fog that twisted into shapes. "Tyler?" I reached out, but he didn't turn. "What's happening?" My voice trembled, desperation rising in my throat. He finally turned slowly, and his eyes met mine, but they were vacant, completely devoid of recognition or humanity. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" he murmured, almost dreamlike, as if he was talking about a painting. Before I could respond, I noticed something on the wall that hadn't been there before, a new name etched deep into the wood. My breath quickened. I stepped closer and my heart plummeted when I recognized the name. But who wrote it? And why? Then the shadow behind him moved, creeping towards me, and something in my gut screamed at me to run. This couldn't end well. Before I could make a decision, the laughter filled the room again, but this time it was both Tyler's and something else, something darker. I had to get out. Now. I bolted from the living room, my heart hammering in my chest. The laughter echoed behind me, twisting and curling like smoke. I didn't look back. I just had to get away from that shadow, whatever it was. My mind raced. I needed a plan, a way to confront this twisted reality. As I dashed into the hallway, I could feel the chill of the shadows following me. I reached the front door. Locked. Panic surged through me. I fumbled with the doorknob, my fingers slick with sweat. It wouldn't budge. I needed to catch my breath, think clearly. The air felt heavy, as though the very walls were alive, pressing inwards. I took a step back, leaning against the cool wall for support. That's when I noticed something else. The floor beneath me was uneven, almost as if it were breathing. I bent down, running my hand over the wooden planks. One had a slight gap. Curiosity gnawed at me. Maybe there was something hidden there, something important. I pried the board loose with my fingers, the creaking sound loud in the oppressive silence. The gap widened, revealing a dark, cramped space. In an act of desperation, I reached inside, feeling around until my fingers brushed against something cool and metallic. My heart skipped. I pulled out a small key, its surface tarnished and old. Where does this go? I muttered to myself. The sound of a door creaking open behind me snapped my focus. I whipped around, breath caught in my throat. Tyler stood at the entrance to the hallway, his silhouette framed by the dim light behind him. The shadows seemed to writhe around him, pulling away only slightly as though it's waiting for my next move. Tyler, please, I began, but he held up a hand, silencing me. Do you see it now? He asked, his voice echoing in the stillness. There was a strange intensity in his eyes, a glimmer of something that felt both familiar and terrifying. It's all connected. What's connected? I demanded, glancing anxiously at the key in my palm. I needed answers, but I felt the walls closing in again. His smile returned, but it wasn't the comforting grin I knew. Everything. You shouldn't have looked. Before I could ask what he meant, he turned abruptly, moving back towards the living room. My gut screamed to follow him, but a sudden noise, a soft whispering, sounded from the shadows behind me. I felt it brush against my neck, cold and invasive. No! I gasped, spinning around. I had to know what was happening. The shadows seemed to pulse, drawing closer. The key burned in my hand. I needed to make a choice. I took a deep breath and called out, Tyler. But the name felt hollow, swallowed by the growing darkness. I had to face the shadows, the truth that lay within them. With the key clutched tight, I turned toward the darkness, ready to confront whatever waited for me. But as I stepped forward, I realized the floor beneath me shifted again, and I stumbled. Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging me back into darkness. That's when everything went dark. I woke up on the floor, the cold wood pressing into my back. Panic surged through me. I scrambled to my feet, looking around, my heart racing. The shadows still loomed, thick and oppressive, but the laughter was gone. It left an unsettling silence behind, one that wrapped around me like a heavy cloak. Tyler? I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. No response. Just the whisper of the shadows creeping at the edges of my vision. I glanced down at the key still clutched tightly in my hand. It felt like a promise, a connection to something beyond this confounding space. The walls felt like they were shifting again, and I fought the urge to panic. I had to know what this key unlocked. I moved carefully toward the living room, half expecting Tyler to jump out and scare me, but he wasn't there. I stepped inside, taking slow breaths, scanning the room for any hint of his presence. Then I noticed a door I had never seen before, slightly ajar at the far corner of the room. My pulse quickened. I eased towards it, every step heavy with anticipation. The key felt warm in my palm. Was this what it was meant for? I pushed the door wide, revealing a smaller space filled with old boxes and forgotten memories. Dust motes danced in a slant of light filtering through a grimy window. I hesitated. It felt wrong to invade this hidden space, but I had to know. I sifted through the boxes, my fingers brushing against musty books and crumbling pictures. Something about the air felt charged, like static before a storm. Then I saw it, a small engraved box tucked in the corner. Panic and excitement battled within me. I knelt down, my hands trembling as I worked the latch. It clicked open with a soft sigh, and I lifted the lid. Inside lay an assortment of trinkets, a silver locket, a faded photograph of a girl with familiar eyes, and a note. I unfolded the paper, my breath catching as I scanned the words. "I'm sorry. I tried to protect you. It's all tied to the key." The note was signed simply, T. My mind raced. Who was this girl? What was Tyler trying to protect me from? And how was I involved in this twisted narrative? Before I could process any more, the shadows shifted, crawling along the walls. A chill ran down my spine. I had to leave, now. I shoved the note into my pocket and backed away from the box, but a sound caught my ear, a soft, sobbing whisper that floated from the shadows. "Help me, please." The voice sent ice through my veins. My heart pounded as I turned to face the darkness behind me, the shadows undulating like a living thing. I felt an overwhelming urge to run, but I also felt drawn to that voice, haunted by a sense of familiarity. That S when I remembered Tyler's words. "You shouldn't have looked." I stepped back, but it felt like the room was shrinking around me. I had to choose. Stay and find out what that voice was, or escape before whatever this nightmare became real. I hesitated just a moment longer, the whisper growing louder, more desperate. Then, the shadows surged forward, and I felt a pull, a grip on my mind. Before I could even scream, everything spun away, plunging me back into darkness. I opened my eyes again, but this time I was not on the floor. The room felt different, more familiar yet charged with an unsettling energy. I could see it, a small light flickering in the distance, like a flame struggling against the dark. My body felt heavy, and my mind raced to piece together what had just happened. The shadows had receded, but a strange sense of dread followed me, a whisper of fear that wrapped around my throat. I pushed myself up, the cool wooden floor beneath me grounding me for a second. I needed to find Tyler. I stumbled toward the flickering light. The shadows still pressed at the edges of my vision, but I forced myself to concentrate. As I got closer, I realized the light was coming from a lamp on a table. It illuminated a small circle, revealing more of the room. But the furniture was all wrong, everything seemed shifted, rearranged into a jigsaw I didn't recognize. "Tyler?" I called, my voice trembling. No answer. I noticed something else in the room, scratched lines on the wall, symbols carved into the wood. They felt ancient, somehow, like they had been there long before I ever arrived. I traced a finger over one, and an electric shock shot through me, sending my heart racing. The lamp flickered off, plunging me back into darkness. I gasped, heart pounding in my chest. What the hell? I fumbled around, looking for the lamp, but my hand found something cold and metal instead. The key. The key that had led me to the hidden box. "Focus," I whispered to myself. I had to escape this madness. Then I heard it again, the sobbing. It was closer now, almost right behind me. "Help me, please." Panic surged within me, but something else tugged at my thoughts. That voice felt familiar, like a piece of a puzzle I was meant to fit together. I turned slowly, heart racing, and faced the shadows. They writhed and shimmered, as if alive, hinting at something just beyond my reach. "Who are you?" I shouted, though my voice quaked. "Show yourself." For a moment, the shadows drew back, revealing a figure standing on the edge of the light, a girl with familiar eyes staring right at me. My breath caught in my throat. It was the girl from the photograph, the one in the engraved box. "Why are you here?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. "I need you," she said, her voice shaky and strained. "You're the only one who can stop it." What did she mean? As the shadows pulsed around her, something shifted in the air, and I felt the tension grow, suffocating. The room seemed to breathe with a life of its own, and the walls closed in tighter. Please, I can't. I hesitated. Suddenly, everything went cold, and the darkness enveloped me again, swallowing the girl whole. I screamed, but no sound escaped my lips. Then, just as abruptly, a loud crash echoed through the house, pulling me back into the now. I stumbled backward, eyes wide. Something or someone had broken in. My heart raced with a new fear. What or who had I just unleashed? The girl's eyes flickered in my mind, and her desperate call hung in the air. I knew I had to find out more, but the noise grew louder, echoing through the halls. The shadows pulsed again, and I was no longer sure if I was about to confront a new threat, or something far worse, whatever had been trapped in this house with me. I pressed my back against the wall, willing my racing heart to quiet. The sound of shattering glass echoed through the house again, sending a fresh wave of panic through me. I had to move. My head spun with confusion, but I couldn't let fear paralyze me. In the darkness, I inched along the wall, trying to keep my breathing steady. The sobbing had stopped, replaced by the sound of something heavy dragging across the floor. The shadows seemed to watch me, waiting. I gulped. Tyler? I called out again, hoping my roommate was hiding somewhere safe or just out of sight. Silence answered me. With trembling hands I fumbled for the door, praying it was still where I remembered. I found the knob and twisted it. Locked. I slammed my shoulder against the door, but it didn't budge. Panic surged again, but I bit back a scream. I needed a plan. I crouched down, heart pounding as I listened closely for any sign of movement. It felt like an eternity before I heard it again, a soft scrape followed by a low, guttural growl. That wasn't Tyler. The sound sent shivers down my spine. That's when I saw it. A shadow darted past the crack of light beneath the door. My stomach dropped. I wasn't alone. Whatever had been trapped here was free now, and it was looking for me. I ran backward, arms outstretched for balance. The lamp sat precariously on the edge of a side table. I grabbed it and swung it over my head. Whoever or whatever was out there wasn't getting past me without a fight. The flickering light cast eerie patterns on the walls, making the symbols dance. Then a crash. The door shuddered as something slammed against it, rattling the knob violently. I saw the shadows thicken and pulse, their tendrils reaching closer. The growl rose in pitch, a warning that sent terror coursing through my veins. I know you're in there, I shouted, my voice trembling as I gripped the lamp tighter. What do you want? The door creaked, and I glanced back, fear clawing at my throat. That familiar face flitted through my mind, the girl from the photograph. She needed me. But what could I do? I couldn't think straight. My pulse raced as I realized I was running out of time. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in like a trap. If I didn't act soon, I could be lost to whatever was lurking in the shadows. I needed to find a way out. My eyes darted around the room, searching for anything I could use. The key. It had to unlock something, but what? And where was Tyler? Before I could gather my thoughts, the door burst open, sending a blast of cold air into the room. I stumbled back, and in that moment, I spotted a flicker of dark fur and gleaming eyes in the doorway. The shadows surged like a living wave, and instinct screamed at me to run. But to where? The growl rose again, more menacing this time. My grip tightened on the lamp, but it felt like a poor defense against whatever I had just unleashed. This was just the beginning. I had to uncover the truth behind the girl's plea. But first I had to survive. I didn't have time to think. I darted to the window, praying it hadn't been sealed shut. The cold night air rushed in as I heaved the window up, but the sound of the growl sliced through the darkness again, closer this time. Then I felt it. Something brushed against the back of my leg, a sickening chill that froze me in place. I turned slowly, my pulse hammering in my ears. It was massive, its fur matted and wild, its eyes glowing in the dim light. Fear rooted me to the ground. Get back! I shouted, brandishing the lamp like it was a sword. But it did nothing to ward off the fear settling in my bones. The creature let out a low snarl, stepping forward with more confidence. It was then I noticed the collar around its neck frayed and worn. This wasn't just some wild animal. It was someone's pet, but twisted into something nightmarish. My mind raced back to the girl. Was this why she needed me? Tyler! I screamed, hoping he'd hear me from wherever he was. Help! The creature's gaze remained fixed on me, and it scraped its claws across the floor, the sound like fingernails on a chalkboard. I scrambled to the side, looking for any way to escape, any exit that didn't lead to that monster. I spotted a heavy bookcase against the wall. If I could just push it over, maybe I could block the doorway. With my heart racing, I lunged towards it, ready to topple the books to the ground. But as I moved, the lights flickered, and everything dimmed. My breath caught in my throat. In the half-light, I saw the creature shift, its form ambiguous in the shadows. Then, in its place, something else emerged from behind it, a flicker of pale skin and disheveled hair. I stumbled back in disbelief. Is that Tyler? He was standing there, dazed and trembling, eyes wide with terror and confusion. What happened? His voice was barely a whisper. Before I could respond, the glowing eyes from the creature shifted towards him, filling the room with a menacing energy. Tyler's face twisted in fear as he took a step back, his body rigid with apprehension. Get away from him! I yelled, raising the lamp higher, feeling the weight of it grow burdening in my hand. What are you? Silence! The figure the creature hissed, its voice unnatural. It took a step forward, and I could see the remnants of Tyler's old dog fused with something twisted and dark, memories mixing with malevolence. I looked back to Tyler, desperate for any answers. Do you know what this is? He shook his head, eyes darting between the beast and me. The growl intensified, rumbling like thunder. In that moment, the door to the hallway slammed shut on its own. We were trapped. Panic rose within me, but I couldn't give in. I had to figure out what was happening. Somehow, the key, the girl, and this creature were all connected. Tyler! I shouted again, trying to make him focus. We need to find the key. I think it can help us. If we can just then, everything erupted into chaos. The creature lunged towards Tyler. The lamp slipped from my grip, crashing to the floor and shattering into pieces. I couldn't just stand there. I had to act. But as I lunged forward to pull Tyler away, everything went dark. I gasped as my surroundings began to blur, lost in a whirlpool of confusion. This was no ordinary night. Whatever truth lay behind the girl's plea was ready to collide with reality, and I suddenly had no idea how to escape. When I opened my eyes again, the room was gone. I was no longer in the tight confines of the apartment. Instead, I found myself standing in what resembled a forest at dusk, shadows stretching ominously around me. The air was thick, suffocating, and heavy with an unsettling silence. Tyler? I called out, my voice small against the oppressive quiet. No answer. I took a cautious step forward, my heart racing in my chest. My thoughts were a tangled mess. Had the creature somehow transported us here? Or had I lost my mind in the chaos? As I walked, I felt a prickling sensation creeping up my spine. The trees around me loomed tall and twisted, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. Something about this place felt wrong, as if it vibrated with a low hum of danger. Then I heard a whisper, barely audible at first. Help me! It was faint, like a memory echoing through the stillness. My heart sank. Was that Tyler? I pushed deeper into the woods, ears straining for any sign, any truth hidden within the dark. Tyler! I shouted again, louder this time, desperation creeping into my voice. Where are you? I rushed forward, the ground crunching beneath my feet. Just then, I stumbled upon something glinting on the forest floor. A silver key. I picked it up, my fingers trembling as I turned it over. This had to be important somehow. Suddenly, I felt it again, a twisting of the air around me, a force pulling me back. I turned sharply, and there it was, the creature, stalking out of the shadows. Its form was shifting even in the dark, becoming more monstrous with each passing moment. "Run!" I screamed, instinct taking over. I darted away from it, clutching the key tightly, my pulse racing. I needed to find Tyler. I needed to get back. Amid desperate breaths and quickened steps, I noticed a flicker of light in the distance. It felt like a beacon of hope. I sprinted towards it, the creature's growls spilling venomously from behind me. The shadows devoured everything else, and the light drew me in like a moth trapped in a web. As I approached, I saw Tyler standing there, no longer dazed but awash with something fierce in his eyes. He was facing the creature, a renewed defiance sweeping over him. "Get back!" he shouted, trying to shield himself from its terrifying advance. "Tyler!" I said, relief flooding over me. "I found the key." I held it up, hoping it could somehow save us both. "Where how did you?" he started, but he didn't finish. The creature lunged toward him, and instinct kicked in. "Use the key!" "I don't know what it does, but it has to be important," I yelled, panic spiking in my voice. But just before he could reach for it, the ground beneath us trembled. A jagged crack opened up, snaking through the forest floor, pulling the creature and Tyler's focus. "Don't let it distract you!" I cried, and with my heart pounding, I stepped closer to Tyler. I had to be near him. He couldn't face this alone. As the crack widened, engulfing the creature in shadow, I sensed that the air shifting again. But something else was coming this time. It felt colder, more sinister, like a presence not of this world. And just like that, the growl erupted into a blood-curdling howl, echoing through the darkness, and I knew we were still far from safe. I took a shaky step towards Tyler, my heart pounding as the ground beneath us quaked. The crack opened wider, revealing an abyss that seemed to breathe, like a dark creature waiting for us to slip in. The creature, half-twisted and monstrous, was caught momentarily at the edge. Its fury echoed like thunder, slashing at the air around us. "Tyler, we can't let it get close," I shouted, willing him to focus. I held the key tightly, feeling the cold metal burn against my palm. "I think it can unlock something, maybe a way back." He nodded, determination flashing in his eyes as he gripped the hilt of an old broken branch, eyeing the creature with fear and resolve. "Whatever it is, we need to use it." The beast roared again, lurching towards us, claws scraping the cracked earth. Summoning every ounce of courage, I sprinted towards Tyler, the darkness swirling around us like a living thing. I had to believe the key meant something, had to believe it was our chance to escape not just the creature, but this nightmare. With the gap between us closing fast, I reached out, holding the key between us. "Do you sense that?" I asked, the air thickening with palpable energy. "What if it can connect us back to the apartment? Then let us figure it out," Tyler shouted, glancing back at the growling beast inching closer. In a frantic effort, I scanned our surroundings, desperate for a door, a latch, something. The light flickered again, shimmering with anticipation. "Over there." I pointed to a faded door set within the shadows of the trees, an outline barely visible. We dashed towards it, the creature screaming behind us, anger radiating from its wretched form. My fingers tightened on the key, adrenaline surging as I charged forward. "Tyler, get ready." As we reached the door, it creaked open just enough to expose a narrow beam of light inside. With no time to waste, I thrust the key into the lock. The air crackled around us as if reality itself held its breath. "It won't hold forever," Tyler yelled, glancing back, horror creeping into his eyes. I turned the key, half expecting the whole world to collapse around us. The moment it clicked into place, an explosion of light burst from the door, flooding the forest with warmth and banishing the shadows that had gripped us. The creature screeched, stumbling back into the darkness. "Go!" Tyler urged, pushing me through just as the creature lunged again. I stumbled inside, and he followed, slamming the door shut just as claws raked across the surface. Heavy silence enveloped us. The chaos of the forest gave way to the familiar creaks of the apartment, the dim light returning as we fell into the room I had known. The air felt different, freer, lighter, yet charged with an unshakable tension. "What just happened?" Tyler panted, glancing around, wide-eyed. "Where are we?" "Safe, I hope," I replied, barely registering the familiarity of our surroundings. "But that thing, whatever it was, is still out there." The weight of dread settled over me like a cold blanket. I rummaged in my pocket, feeling the note I had found earlier. And the girl, she needed help. There's still something we don't understand. Tyler shook his head, trying to process everything that had happened. "We have to find a way to stop it, whatever it is." I nodded, thoughts racing. "But how? How do we break this cycle?" The names, the shadows, I trailed off, anxiety clawing at my thoughts. In the quiet that fell between us, I caught sight of the old portraits lining the walls, their familiar eyes glinting with an unsettling knowledge. The names crossed off, the girl's photograph, and the note all circled like a vortex in my mind. "Maybe we should leave," I suggested, grasping for an escape. "Get out of this apartment, and away from whatever this is." "Together?" Tyler asked, looking uncertain. "Together." As we moved to leave, a flicker caught my eye, something shifting in the shadows. The fear settled back in my stomach as ambient light flickered across the room. Tyler paused, glancing back with unease, but then sudden laughter echoed through the halls, light and innocent, yet uncomfortably distorted. Our instincts kicked in, dread curling around our hearts as the shadows thickened. "Don't look now," Tyler muttered, but I think it followed us. I glanced over my shoulder, meeting those haunting, hollow eyes of the portraits reflected back at me. The uncertainty settled deep in my bones. "Let us go," I whispered again, this time with less conviction. Yet as we rushed towards the door, the whispers surged louder, swirling around us like a warning, reminding me that the nightmare was far from over. We might have escaped the creature, but we hadn't escaped the shadows or whatever was lurking in the corners of this old place. I still think about that night sometimes, wondering if Tyler and I truly left it behind. But sometimes I hear that laugh echoing, and I can't help but wonder if it's just the darkness, still waiting.